owns. I mean, and she is the epitome of what Nakia just said. She's a free Black woman who chooses to be. I love that. I actually want that on a shirt. I choose to be. I think that many of us have come from, situations and adversity. And as we grow up, where we go from being these excited young people who have all of this creativity, who want to be doctors, lawyers, or musicians, or whatever it is when we grow up. And unfortunately, through life's beating down on us, sometimes we forget that we still have a choice. We have a choice to show up positive. We have a choice to come to the world and add value to the spaces, or we have a choice to come and be a bar humbug, right? I know that one thing I love about this platform is we have so many different guests that come from different backgrounds. And with Kiana and I, we're similar, but we're different. And we check each other. When our energy is not right, when we're not being who the 15-year-old versions of ourselves needed, we check each other, because who are you choosing to be? So I love that. Key, who are you choosing to be?
I'm choosing to be me. I mean, that's all I can choose to be is me. Okay. But I love the fact that Nakia is representing, letting us know that, something good is coming out of over East.
Yes,
for those guys that are watching, for our guys are watching on YouTube and Facebook, it's a Baltimore thing, and I'm gonna say it's a Baltimore. I know last week on the show I had to slow it down a little bit for some of our friends that were up in Pennsylvania. They didn't catch what I was saying because that elongated too. But we want to make sure we are always representing Baltimore, and so Nikki, thank you for representing over East. He was talking. I was like, I know, right? She really sounds like she should be from West Baltimore. I just can't give East Baltimore the credit for.
Oh,
it's so funny. It's so funny. I ain't even from Baltimore, but because of my work that's been in West Baltimore, when somebody says, "Oh yeah, something's over East," I'm like, "Nah, that's over East. I ain't going over there." I was like, "That's far. That's a clip away." But over on the West Side, I can tell you. Like somebody said, "Oh, where can we go?" Oh, all right, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna make it right here. Watch out because there's a pothole right on that spot. But on the East Side, I can tell you nothing. And it's funny because I'm not even from Baltimore, but I swear I've adopted that West Baltimore side where I'm like, I don't know what's going on over East. So
that is so funny.
That's how I grew up.
I want to give an acknowledgement to Earl Young. Thank you so much for tuning in. And he says great questions and even greater responses. He applauds you guys. Thank you. Mr. Young is also an inspiration to students, both over East and over West. He has a powerful story of overcoming and being resilient. He is definitely a brother, and we appreciate him as well. So thank you, Earl, for tuning in. Guys, this is the Connected Corner. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you go to YouTube and type in the Connected Corner and be sure to subscribe. Also, share this broadcast. And if you're catching it on the replay, comment replay. We still want to hear back from you. Yeah. And so this has been really good. Jason, today I want to toss this to you, and I know it's a key question, so I won't take up too much of the time because your questions be juicy, they be good. And so conversation today, most people know I work in education. I had a decision to make this school year with stepping out of the classroom because of COVID and just trying to figure out where to best leverage my skill set, right? Do you help your 30 students that you may see, or even up to 120 students if you rotate, or do you help a community of students? And so that was a decision I made, and I inherited almost 400 students in that decision and that choice. And so I'm going to, again, start with Jason and then toss it to Nakia. What do you think right now is the greatest hindrance to our children? And how does that translate to deficiencies in our community? And so what do you think is the greatest hindrance to our children? And how does that translate to a deficiency in our community?
That's a great question. I would say the greatest deficiency is definitely centered around the bureaucracy and the systems that are in place to keep, certain sects of our communities down. It's set up. We can't overtly be racist in a way, in the past, like America used to be. So you do it in other forms with lack of resources, lack of space, lack of materials, just all these different things. that you put in there, not giving the right curriculum, not, putting the right effort into things, and then making decisions that have nothing to do with the actual need of the children. As we, I look at, we've gone through this pandemic. We've been in this for a year now. At this point, if we were a Fortune 500 company, right? If America was a Fortune 500 company and you've been dealing with a radical change over the course of a year, by the time you've gotten to this point in your company, you have made adjustments. If we're playing football, and we're getting killed in the first half, we go into the locker room at halftime and we come back with a new plan, a strategy to counteract what just happened in the first half. That didn't happen. What happened was we need to open up schools. We need to open up schools. We just need to get back to school. We need to get back to school. You never addressed the issue that was going on prior to the pandemic, with all the issues that were going on with the education system. You never addressed, how to maximize what's going to happen in the pandemic. Because we even know we're going back to school, they said it. You're going to have 30 to 40% of the people going back. Okay, so what about the other 70%? Where are they going? What happens to them? So you still haven't handled that. If you're on the call, they're like, oh, well, we're going to work this hybrid model, but you'll figure it out. Like, you're still not addressing the needs of the kids, of the parents. Again, by this point in time, a Fortune 500 company would have, pivoted, the famous pandemic word now. We would have pivoted and we would have come up with a new way to, solve this problem, because this is the way of life as we look at it. How much longer is this going to go? We get to the fall. Are we going to be fully back 100% in school? I doubt it. Let's be real. That's not enough time. We're saying, we're in February, but we're saying, oh yeah, in about 7 months, we're going to be good. No, we haven't been good for the last 12. There's no way in the 7 you snapped your fingers. This is not what you call it, Avengers. Like, it's not going to work that way. So how do we, get forward? The plan should have been, how do we make this right? How do we work through what we have to deal with to make this right? How do we address needs? When we looked at it from New Song's perspective, we're a small, so New Song is a nonprofit. We're 501c3 that operates a charter school, New Song Academy. So, and me working with our principal, Doug Fireside, we talked about how can we address the needs of our family. We didn't talk about opening. How do we address the needs of our family? We did a survey with the family. 25 to 30% said we may feel comfortable coming back. Okay, that's not the majority. If it's 10 people in the room and 2 or 3 people say, yeah, we should do it, we don't all do it. We said, well, 7 people said, nah, we're not going there. So the need wasn't reopening. So how do we address the need? Well, the need is we have those young people in our midst that are struggling because there's no infrastructure at home. There's no way to keep them online, or they have problems with getting online. The hotspot is not connecting in the right way. The different things. So we said, okay, how do we address the need? We created a distance learning support center that for the kids in the academy, the ones that are struggling the most with getting online, they'll come in, they'll be sitting at their own personal table, which is 8 feet apart from the other kids. And my staff will be monitoring them while they're on their distance learning with their teachers remote still. But they're getting their work done during that time period. That's addressing a need versus just saying, let's open up the doors. So the biggest issue is people making decisions that may be politically based or economically based versus the true need, especially for our young people, because like you said, this is going to affect them as they get older. This year is going to affect most of our kids, if not all of them, in one way, shape, or form as they go on. And this year is not over with. We got to look at this in terms of 1.5 to maybe 2 years in this world of virtual learning, whatever. Fix it.
Awesome. Before we hear from Nakia, I'm going to just read John Howard's comment. They will not address the needs because they have to address the deep-rooted issues they knew about but never wanted to face, especially in urban areas and communities. Thank you so much, Mr. Howard. If you have a comment or question, you can drop it right in any of the, if you're watching on Facebook, you can drop it in the comments. Watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments. We want to hear from you. So Nakia, tossing the same question to you. What do you think is the greatest challenge, that our children are facing, and how does that translate to a deficiency in our community?
I think that one thing the film that I'm working on addresses is the fact that more youth need to be loved in a way that is authentic, and I know that that is something that's a stretch in the school system because I used to, work in the school system. Anytime you say things like love, hugs, it's like, oh no, don't do that. It's not a part of our data set. Um, but I know for sure that the young women who left our program in Anatomy and Wings were excited to go home. They had the same lives my 300 kids had in my after school program. Um, what they got was nourishment in the program, and Anatomy of Wings talks about the nourishment that they received over 7 years. We met one day a week, one day, Thursdays. And these girls had enough experience with being listened to, being seen and heard, that it followed them to the point where they're teaching their children how to breathe. They're teaching their children that listening to someone is something that's a tool that you can use with you in your life. And what if all kids were able to have that? Yes, they are having issues reading. Yes, academics is difficult. Yes, I get it. I get that reading and education is important. I'm an educated woman myself. But I also get that a lot of our kids are not receiving love because they're not coming from that kind of environment for whatever reason. Whatever reason, it doesn't even matter. But what if we could make sure that along with them being tutored, along with all these other needs that they need met, what if we can make sure that they're listened to? I know that a few of my friends who are working in the school system said that high school students and middle school students weren't even allowed to talk about coming back to school in the forum that they had. They gave space for elementary school students to give comments, but they didn't give space for the older kids to talk um, because they knew what they would say, right? They knew what they would say. Um, and that's the kind of school system that we're dealing with. I left the school system because of that reason. I wasn't. I noticed the East Baltimore was coming out, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't listen to
We
the
had that
principal
same issue. I had
sound
that same issue with the West
anymore.
Baltimore coming out.
Yes, it's just like if I listen to one more person from PG County, no disrespect, but I'm not from PG County. I'm from Baltimore. I know what my kids need. You're not gonna sit here and tell me what my kids need when I'm listening to them every single day. I'm on the ground with them every single day. Like it was too much for me. I just felt like young people who can afford to be able to walk themselves to school and their sibling to school and they're in first grade. They're living a grown life. This is a 7, 8-year-old. They know how to go home, make dinner, make sure mommy is fine, whatever. They know how to live. You trying to sit here and say that they don't know what they need in school. But you know that they know what to do when they get home. They know how to hold the house down, make sure everybody wakes up to get to school in the morning. Come on. It's common sense.
Well, you touch. We now know Mr. Howard is from PG. He said, "Hey, PG."
My fault.
No
I had
offense.
a lot of
We
friends.
welcome. We love PG too. We love PG County. Yes, we did. But we definitely understand coming from both perspectives for Jason and Nakia. Tori and I both have been in the classroom. PG stand up. Oh my goodness. Tori and I both have been in and out of the classroom. And so, I started teaching, date myself in my early 20s. I was a career changer. And so I definitely understand that Baltimore, West Baltimore coming out, not only with my students, who I had to, get straight and let them know I was not the one. But also, just with some of the things that go on, within the school with those people who are supposed to be our professional counterparts, that you find yourself also having to check because of the language that they're using to describe our children. And so, a lot of times you start, thinking, well, can I do more for them outside of the classroom than in the classroom? Having a program like yours, Anatomy of Wings, Tori now being able to infect what she's doing with students now out of the classroom on a community-wide space. And unfortunately, like a lot of my educator friends, as many of us as I've been able to encourage and say, what, honestly, you could probably do a lot more out of the classroom for your students and make change on a larger scale for students than you can, because they really kind of tie your hands as teachers, and not all have the aptitude to be rebellious as I was, in the classroom, because, at times I'll be like, you won't get that data when I give it to you, when my kid's ready. Like, it's going to be late. Let me let you know it will be late because I want to make sure my students are getting it, and I'm not teaching to a test. I'm teaching so that they have life skills, and so they understand and they are able to take this math with them when they leave here. And so, just having that understanding. So we appreciate your candor in that. And it's, we need to know that. So both of you kind of touched on, I'll do one of the questions here, because throughout the conversation here, even with Tori, we all can answer this question. So we do like these 2-minute segments for questions. What leadership style describes you and why? So I picked up on some of your styles as we've gone through the podcast tonight. So one of the styles is a thought leader. Are you a thought leader, a courageous leader, an inspirational leader, or a servant leader? So which style describes you? Thought leader, courageous leader, inspirational leader, or servant leader, or all of the above? And tell us why. So who wants to start?
Let's start with Nakia this time.
Yes.
I have been a servant leader for a while, and that was actually one of my titles, servant leader intern. And I think that defines me before I just had a baby like a year ago. That defines the pre-mommy Nakia. Thank you. But as I'm growing into my profession and into being a mom, I realized that I can't necessarily be the servant leader I used to be. So I think I'm moving more towards being an inspirational or thought leader. Because my baby needs all my attention now. I can't be on the ground as much as I used to. So
Awesome, Jason.
Yes. I think I'm gonna say I live in about the inspirational, servant, and courageous at different points and different times depending on the need. Definitely a servant because I my reason for even being in for jumping into the Y to begin with and then jumping over to New Song now 3 years later is that servant mentality. It's funny, I laugh because when I was looking at positions, my wife, who's originally from DC, she said, you are really sticking with Baltimore, aren't you? And I said, yeah, it's my home away from home. Like I really have, connected. Baltimore reminds me of where I'm from in New York. So it really, it connects to me. It speaks to me. I said, and West Baltimore, especially, sorry, Nakia. But I just really, like, I truly have found my connection and my reason, and I was really serious and focused on staying in West Baltimore, and having that ability to do that was key. So that's the servant side. But then, I feel I am an inspirational leader as I work with my teams, wherever I'm at, to build them up. I've always lived by the mantra that I want you to take my job. Like that's where I start. So you're coming in new. I don't care if you're coming in to mop the floors. You're coming in to stand outside and hold up the sign that says slow or stop when you're on a construction site. Whatever you want to do. I want you to take my job. And there's nothing stopping you. So because at the end of the day, if you're that good, then I'm even better. I'm making you better. So my legacy is built not on me being the best executive director I ever heard, that's ever been at, New Song. No, my legacy is going to be on how many people I help become executive directors, across the board. So that's that inspirational side. And then courageous, I like to ask for forgiveness and not permission. I'm that guy. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. When it comes to things, I've there you go. My wife pointed out to me, she said, you really need to be in an organization where you kind of are in control, because your ideas get out there and you may rub some people the wrong way sometimes. So now I don't have anybody to rub the wrong way because I'm the people, which is great, So I think I like this role, And she was like, "Who do you have to ask to take off?" I said, "Let me go check. Should I take off? Yeah, you should take off. You sure it's okay? Yeah, it's okay." There you go. So I'm there, and I think I like that feeling because I don't deal with the politics, the red tape. Let's make a decision. If it's wrong, we'll fix it. I always say we're not brain or heart surgeons. We can make a mistake. Now, I don't want you making a mistake if you're messing around my brain or my heart, but outside of that, hey,
it can be fixed.
we pushed the wrong button. You know what? Okay, push another button. Let's go. We're good. So I think that's the way I look at it. So yeah, I'm not courageous out where we're gonna take that chance.
Very good. Very good. Kiana, you?
Listening to them, initially when I was, looking at this, my first thought was thought leader.
Mhm.
And, just from, the standpoint of kind of being that go-to person to kind of think things through, do the thinking part of it, ask the questions, make you think about, does that make sense? That does not make sense. So being a thought leader and that right and being somebody that also can think outside the box. But listening to Jason with the courageous part, I'm definitely of the mindset and the mantra to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. I am in a new position now, which is actually not in part of the leadership team, but I'm actually sitting back and wanting my director, can you lead? I'm gonna need you lead. I'm taking a break right now, bro. I'm resting. Lead, do it. And so he has deemed me as his advisor. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. That's not kind of where I want to be. And I keep saying to him, okay, that's fine. I'll be your advisor. I'll be the person that just makes the statement since you don't really want to make the statement. I'll make the statement. I'm okay with that. Because again, you got to make a decision. You have to, when you're in a leadership position, you have to be ready to make that executive decision. And like you said, if change is needed, then you make the change. So I'm probably at the top of that with thought and courageous leader, more so than anything else.
Awesome. And I don't know, Nakia well, but I hope to get to know you a lot better. And now I think we even have even more connections. But I can see that in you. And I also want to just say, woman to woman, I just turned 37. It is okay to be transformative in your leadership. It is also okay to give that little baby all the attention and all of the time. And sometimes Kiana has to be that person to say it to me. Don't have guilt about having to switch and change who you are and how you present to the world because, we all have priorities and sometimes your priorities shift and change. So we just want to wish you the best with this new little bambino.
Thank
I
you.
want to You're welcome. I want to throw out a book that you guys can read, two of them about leadership styles, and then I'm going to give you mine. One is Lead Like a Black Belt, and it's Transforming Your Leadership. It's a book by Scott Alexander. So I'm going to give it to you again. Lead Like a Black Belt, like black belt, like wah, in martial arts. Let me stop before I hit myself in the face on camera. Lead Like a Black Belt, Transform Your Leadership by Scott Alexander. And then another one is Finding Your Leadership Style. Is a leadership guide. And these books can be found on Amazon. Finding Your Leadership Style, a guide for, what is it? I think it's a guide for educators, actually, because this is one that we had to read by Jeffrey Glanz, Glanz. And so I want to just throw those out there. You know, we're always giving you news and resources you can actually use. If anybody's watching the show and saying, I don't know what kind of leader I am, actually, I don't like to lead at all. These are 2 books that you can get, each of them for less than like $5. Do some self-development and really get to see who you are as far as your leadership style. As far as my leadership is kind of somewhere in between who the people I am leading need me to be. And so I know I'm a thought leader at times. I can be that courageous leader. I'm often the person who's out on the ledge by myself, waving the pickets and having the, kicking up the dust for the greater good of everyone. I want to share a quick story about something you guys said earlier. I had a student who, when we talk about loving, who forced me out of my traditional leadership style into a completely different leadership style. I was teaching American government 9th and 10th grade. And I had a student who was he knew the family member in his family who was enslaved. This is the only person in his family that they learn about. This is the person who made it to 9th grade, but not really school. You know, if they could measure it, it would have been 9th grade. From that ancestor, that great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, every male in his family has only made it to 9th grade. That's it. After 9th grade, nobody has gone on. This student came to me one day in tears because his sister was in an 11th grade class down the hall, United States history, where their assignment was to say whether or not slavery was a choice. And so we talked about, remember that Kanye West statement, and some of the other people have made those statements. And so here we have this 9th grade son, because when we look at young people, we see our children, we see who we were in them a lot of times, right? This 9th grade son who comes from a generation of his father's only ever made it through 9th grade, his grandfather, all of his brothers, but the sister's in the 11th grade down the hall. Let's talk about that dynamic. And the sister has an assignment, United States history, is slavery a choice? And this young man grabbed me and held me and cried on me. There was no way I was not going to love that child back. And there was no way I was not going to be the educator, the teacher, the mom, and the leader he needed me to be. And so when we have these shows and we talk about community, we're not just talking about all of the great things and I'm the one. No, there are deficiencies in the community. And we're hoping that everybody who walks away from the show, who's tuning in, who's listening, is getting something and actually doing some self-analysis and reflection and saying, you know what, I could do a little more. Or maybe I could change how I'm presenting in the community. And so as far as my leadership style, I'm just Corey. I'm who they need me to be. That's my answer. Kiana, I see John Howard said another great book is Leading with a Limp by Dan Allender. So we're definitely going to check out these books. And if you guys aren't currently reading something, please read something. This has been a pandemic that I believe God brought to many of us because we were praying for just some downtime, right? God, if I could just have a minute, if I could just find the time. Well, guess what? You've had 365 days almost. And so on any self-development during this pandemic, please, please, please do yourself a justice and develop and grow. Read something different, watch something different, maybe unplug from TV and plug into a book. All right, I'm off my house. Kiana?
No, I mean, I think that is really important. We definitely have to self-develop. And, again, looking at things in a sense that we can reflect on what type of leader we are, because in order to be in the community and show up for the community, you definitely need to know what type of leader you are. You need to know what is needed, how you can help the community, from all of those different standpoints. And so just kind of touching base on that, I have another question for you guys.
All
And
right.
so we can probably get one more in. Why is giving back to the community important for you? So
Jason.
why is giving back to the community important for you?
Why is giving back to the community important for me? I would say it's what drives me. I had a presentation this morning with a school in Brooklyn, New York, for young people for Black History Month, and the question was, how did I get to my career path? And I told them, like, originally I was in the for-profit world, working on that side and doing it, and it was great. I was young, I was out of college, I'm making money. It was perfect, but I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And I started volunteering in an after-school program and realized that that's where my love came in. And from that point on, I just kept going. My strongest bonds of relationships and friendships have come during my nonprofit side. Even when I stepped back into the for-profit world, I still had my foot in the nonprofit side, and then I worked on the foundation side of their world, because I just wanted to stay there. And then I find myself here, being able to run a community organization that is growing, expanding our community hub access. I'm in Sandtown, Winchester, and my goal is to, bring that community, up, strengthen it as best we can, address the needs. We see the needs as, health, career, and education, and we want to be that hub for everybody, there, and that's what fulfills me. That's what makes me feel happy. When I walk somewhere and somebody says, "What do you do for a living?" Forget about the title, like, am I executive director? Nah, I'm a community leader. I'm a person that is taking on the ills of the community and saying, let me make them better. Let me strengthen them. That's what I do, in a nutshell. That's me.
Awesome. Nakia?
For me, giving back to the community has always been a part of my life, and I don't know a way to be without that. So I identify like directly with it, and that has its great things, and also it's like, the other things too. Like community activists, after a while, are always burnt out if you don't do self-care well. So I learned that early on, but I'm still learning that. But also, like, that comes with just when you're selfless and you feel like you were talking about earlier about the student that just needed you in that moment. Like sometimes being a community person who is just mixed in with everything, your professionalism goes out the window and you have to just be there for people. And you just have to be present as a human being for people, and I feel like that's what's important to me. It's important to me in my work, it's important to me in my life, and I hope that I can just be there for people as much as as much as I need to be, without giving up parts of myself. Um, but also just being there when people know that they need someone to lean on in a way. And Mr. Grayson said it earlier about young people being able to take his place. Like that's important. That's needed. I feel like something happened where that was a gap. There was a gap with Black people giving back so that someone can take their position. And I feel like that's coming back to the surface now as Black people. Now I feel like I see that a little more where people are reaching back and saying, "I want you to have my job," and that's pretty much what I want to. Like that's important to me. Like I want everybody in the community that I've worked with to know that you can be a mentor yourself. You know, you can be a book publisher yourself. You can do all these things because somebody paved the way for me. So, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Tori, you want to go
Sure.
next, or you're going to have an extended answer?
No, I do what I can. No, I wasn't last week. I got to make it up. No, so I want to point out things that both of our guests shared. I have been personally burnt out. I never knew, and we didn't talk about self-love or what, any of that balance and things. We come from a family of extremely hardworking people. You worked until you died, right? You gave it 100% and then you just collapsed and died at 54. I think about my grandmother all the time, and how many of the women, in our family didn't make it out of their 50s. Your mother, my grandmother, you start looking around and you say, oh, we didn't learn self-love and balance. And so for any community leader who's listening, give yourself grace. There's a Baltimore City Black voters page that was just created. I think Dion created it. And I saw that Anise Brown, who's a friend of ours, she's a good sister girl, and she's an attorney, and she was commenting about people. So yes, I'm sorry, I am going to have an extended answer. Anyway, she was commenting about community people and then politicians and people who think that being a politician means just picking up trash. And it was a very interesting perspective because her bottom line statement was, some of you all need to stay as community people and do the recycling and work in the trash and let these other people go and make legislative changes. And I saw that and I was like, wow, as someone who can do both, as someone with a degree in history and government political science, as someone who has a federal government background, but will walk through the alleys and pick up the trash, I need to now identify how I best serve my community. And so we know, many of us go through different stages. When it was time for us to fight for 15, we were in Annapolis. We were opening our homes and fighting for wages. When it was time for us to get Sandtown Winchester cleaned up, we were out in the street. Now, what does this phase of life look like for me? I really think it's me extending my education. And so most people who sit close to me know that I'm thinking about going back to school. But hearing that comment and reading that comment made me feel like I need to go and fill me up more, get a different vantage point so I can actually be better for my community. And so, a little elongated question answer. But anyway, how about you, Key? Why the community? Why are you a community?
So, I mean, for me, the giving back is just is honestly self-satisfaction. It's like having that satisfaction at the end of the day that you accomplished something and that you made a difference. For me, much like Jason, I went into the nonprofit world. My degree is in accounting and management. I mean, pretty much that's everything I took, starting from high school all the way up to master's. But I knew just a year in coming out of undergrad, like public accounting just wasn't going to be the thing for me. And so, with the public accounting, because it was like, okay, great, we're in here, I'm balancing all these books, I'm doing audits, I love numbers, I'm dealing with money, but there was no like gratification, no, no satisfaction at the end of the day. It's like, well, what difference did I really make? I got the numbers on the return right. I got the numbers on the balance sheet right. But what at the end of the day? And so for me, it was always that search of trying to figure out how do I take, the skills and talents that I have, because I didn't always see, doing great things with numbers as a talent. When my mom and sister could like sew and paint, and my grandma was a seamstress. It's like accounting is not really a talent, but I come to understand later in life that actually it is a talent, it is a gift. And so I took it from the for-profit world and came into the nonprofit world, and now I'm really seeing where I'm thriving more in the nonprofit world and in the community, because people with my skill set are direly needed, in the community. And so now I'm seeing the benefit of it. Now I'm really seeing the benefit of the education and the experience now that I'm using that skill set in the community, being on boards, always taking the treasurer budget role and those type of things, because it is definitely needed. So I think for me, it's really about that giving back. Like Nikki said, preparing our youth. I think teaching and being in the classroom sometimes was also scary, because I'm thinking, who is going to take care of me? Who is going to be my nurse? Who is going to be the president in 20 years? So if I would tell teachers and educators, like, if you think along those lines, you might do a better job if you think about the fact, like, you might not have a nurse or a doctor, you might not have somebody to come pick up, like, we have to go on as a people and as a community. And how do we do that if we're not training, teaching, inspiring and elevating those coming up behind us? So I think that is just important to be in the community in order to make that happen.
Awesome. I love it. And I want to admonish everyone to also just be. Don't worry about a title. When we grew up, we knew who you could curse in front of and who you couldn't. We knew what side of the street to straighten up on, and oh, I'm going to walk in front of such and such a store or such and such as home, and I can't act that way. So when you show up in the community consistently who you are, you don't always need a title. Some of the mentors that I had growing up never had the word mentor snapped across their chest, but these were the women, who presented themselves a certain way. People often laugh. I had a girlfriend that went to Bowie with me who laughs and said, every time you go to the beach or the pool, you have on lipstick and earrings. Yeah, because we were raised that you look a certain way going to the beach or in the pool, right? Doesn't matter if I have a shower cap on because I want my hair to get wet, I got this lipstick on. Well, that came not only from our family experiences, but from the mentors that we saw in the community, the women that we saw in the community. And so I'm going to acknowledge all of the unsung and unspoken mentors and community leaders who just show up every day and are who they are. You don't have to have a, community association to be a leader. And I think we need to get back as a people to that understanding. That community is every person tuned into this show. It's every person who gets up and comes outside and picks up trash off of their front, off of their steps. That is community. And we are losing the sense of togetherness because too frequently we are searching for titles. And so I just want to throw that out. While all of us do have titles, none of us allow our titles, like Jason said. The title does not make or break a person. Does it come with perks? Yeah, sometimes, right? That's a good thing. But at the end of the day, if God were to strip us of those titles, we would still present to the earth these people, who we are. We would still turn around and pull someone else forward. We would still mentor a child. I just want to acknowledge each of you for just being who you are in the earth, because without you, we're nothing. We all need each other to show up and present our gifts back to the earth. And so how can we best support New Song? So I know we're coming down the time. I want to make sure that we get that question out. New Song, how can we best support what you guys have going on? Is there help that we can do? We're from West Baltimore, so we are gratefully appreciative of you being in the Sandtown, Winchester area. What can we do to support?
Of course, number one, I'm always saying, that's 501c3. Click on our donate page on newsongcommunitylearningcenter.org. Click on donate. You'll also get a video of me there saying thank you for your donation. That's number one. Number two, you can always email me, and I give it to you, jgreen@newsongclc.org, and figure out what you are interested in. When I work with volunteers, the first thing I want to do is find out, what are you interested in doing? Because that's important. I want to know what you want to do, and then I can fit you into the needs. Because we are a nonprofit and a charter school, having those two arms is key. We're also we're about to take over the old Gilmore Elementary. So what's going to happen is we're going to move the academy into the old Gilmore Elementary, which is phenomenal. So we'll be able to bring some life back to that old building. And from there, or we call it the 107 building because it's the 107 school. And now the current space that we are in, which is our space, will become the community hub, where we'll focus on, bring in partners that can focus on career, wellness, and education, in that hub. My ultimate goal, of course, is to take over, to create a campus of New Song, on that side, because of course our original building, where New Song started 30 years ago, is still across the street. It's still ours. Our space is still there. We're just in the other one. So the goal is to take over and really bring in all the partners, all the organizations that are trying to do the work, create this umbrella over, Sandtown, Winchester, and West Baltimore to really help the community, strengthen the community, take us to the next level, work together to do all the stuff that, Tori and I started doing back when I was at the Druid Hill, like we said, let's make this happen. Like, now take that on a bigger step, and make it happen. Now, I don't have a bureaucracy to stop us. We could just go, so that's the best way to help is, number one, of course, funds. And then next on that is, just shoot me a message and say, like, what can we do to work together? I'm open. I want to make things happen with all different organizations. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you, Nakia, because, I think working with our young people, one of our community coordinator right now is working on publishing a book with the kids through a grant he got from the health department. So, like, that's phenomenal. And then taking that to the next level, doing more videos, doing more connections. So all that together, yes.
Awesome.
Yes. For me, I'm just wearing so many hats tonight. I think that the one in the forefront is me being a filmmaker. So our film is in this national festival. We are in need of 5 stars. We are needing people to watch our film. It's a powerful film called Anatomy of Wings, and you can find out more at anatomyofwings.com. We're on Instagram, Anatomy of Wings Doc, Twitter, Anatomy of Wings Doc. Just follow us and get to know us. And we're looking for an executive producer. We also are attached to a nonprofit organization, so we do accept donations. And every donation, every person who donates is in our credits. So we have a long list of credits. But I think that is the main call of action that I have tonight is for you to, if you have a chance to watch the film, it's only 84 minutes. It's made by women from East and West Baltimore, not just over East. And I think that it really talks about a lot of what we discussed today. Yes.
Awesome. I mean, I keep telling Kiana, I said, with all these amazing people, I can go to school. I can dip off and go to school. I am completely confident in what both of you guys are doing. I'm excited now that we are connected, and you will also be hearing from the Connected Corner and Beehive Connected group. We're going to stay connected. And I heard Kiana's thoughts. She knows I have this ESP. Offline, she's going to connect both of you guys to a resource, one of which she sits on the board for, that will be really good for you guys. And then we're always here. Like, the point of getting connected is building, think about it as a beehive, right? So now we are sister and brother bees, right? You guys can come to us at any given time for anything that you may need, and vice versa. We believe in mutually beneficial relationships. We'll continue to share your information. We'll continue to, push it out in our networks. And we want our people to come up and step up and really support you. As far as me, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Tori Rose and Tori Rose the Connector. And that's pretty much it. Find us here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Kiana, how can we find you? And if you have any final words.
You can find me on all social media platforms as Kiana B. Jones. I'm sorry. My brain is something. I was going to say something funny in Austin. Kiana B. Jones on all social media platforms. And I just, again, want to say thank you to you guys. This was awesome. And again, you guys, we bring you news and resources you can actually use, but you gotta use them. And so, you know, if you watch tonight, you want to watch again, you think you missed something, scroll up in the comments to get the links for Jason and Nakia. If you're watching on the replay, again, connect with them. They're doing wonderful things in the community, and we want to make sure that you guys stay connected, and make sure you come back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and get connected and stay connected to the Connected Corner.
It's
Peace and good night, y'all. Thank you for joining us.